The torrential rain slammed hard and continuously on the bulletproof glass of the bunker, and every dull impact echoed the deep pain of Ella's previous life when the zombies were biting her flesh and blood, and her boyfriend Jack traded her for half a can of expired beans from the vulgar tailor. When she bled to death in the snow, she never thought fate would give her a second chance. But at the moment, the sun seeped through the cracks in the apartment curtains, and the date on the mobile phone screen was clear. Only a whole month was left before the global zombie outbreak. Why are you standing there? How do we pay the rent if we don't go to work? Jack shuffled into the living room in a tone as natural as his previous life. Ella's eyes locked on the crumpled ticket in his hand. This is the ticket. In a previous life, Jack missed the $500,000 jackpot by one figure and later indulged in fantasy football gambling, eventually ruining their lives. She didn't explain softly as she used to, I have paid leave, remember? Instead, he grabbed the lottery ticket in his hand, and his voice was as cold as the winter wind, this thing is useless. I went out. Jack shouted behind her, you don't even care about us now? But Ella has taken her stride out the door, and this time, she won't let anyone stand in her way. In the car, Ella sent a resignation email to the boss of the marketing company. The world is coming to an end, there is no need to waste time on this job. Then she hastily wrote a list of supplies in a memo. The death of a previous life taught her the most crucial lesson, under the end, only you can save yourself. She bought a new lottery ticket at the 7-Eleven on the street corner and silently recited the number she knew by heart. 3 days later, a notification popped up that $400,000 had been deposited into her account, after federal and state taxes. Ella laughed to tears. Money can't stop zombies, but it can give her a glimmer of life. She maxed out PayPal's credit limit, unlocked Amazon's instant delivery limit, and even borrowed money from several peer-to-peer lending platforms. Debt? It doesn't matter anymore when the world is in ruins. Who will come to collect debts? The fog was still heavy in the mountains, and Ella parked her car in front of an abandoned hut. In the passenger seat, Cole, the scruffy beagle she bought from the street auto repair shop, squirmed uneasily. It was her companion, and she had chosen it herself. In a previous life, Ella and Jack had been hiding here for 6 months until someone found the keyhole behind the painting of the living room. This time, she didn't waste a second. Ella walked straight to the master bedroom and rummaged through the dusty bedside table. Finally, the fingertips touched 2 brass keys. Cole suddenly barked at the wall, his tail wagging fast as if he had always known there was a secret there. She inserted the key into the keyhole behind the painting, and with a low rumble, the floor under the dining table slowly slid open. Ella turned on her flashlight and shone down, her breath suddenly stagnant. Rows of arrows, machete, and even a few well-maintained AR-15 rifles lined the wall. The shelves were piled with expired military ready-to-eat rations, but the real treasure was the secret door Cole took her to find. Behind the door was a secret chamber cut into the mountain, equipped with one-way perspective glasses. She can see everything outside, but the people outside can't see her. The basement brought more surprises. A stream flows through the cave, and 3 hydroelectric generators stand quietly by the wall. The moment she pressed the master switch, the warm yellow light immediately filled the entire space. This is not an ordinary cabin, but a fortress tailored for the end. For the next 2 weeks, Ella became a doomsday preparation maniac. She bought 200 boxes of protein bars, 500 packets of pasta and 250 gallons of powdered milk at Costco. At Sevis's, she stocked up on ibuprofen, antidiarrheal drugs, and even some herbal supplements. No one can tell what will come in handy once the hospital is paralyzed. The manager of Best Buy saw that she had ordered a generator, solar panels and mini refrigerator in one go, and almost took her hand and thanked her. Ma'am, everything will be delivered within 3 days, at wholesale price. Cole curled up on a pile of sleeping bags and dozed, the gentle snores mingling with the pencils of Ella crossing off the list items. For the first time since her rebirth, Ella felt safe. When I got back to the apartment, it was a mess. The coffee table was piled full of empty pizza boxes, and Jack was slumped on the sofa, still clutching the game controller. Where have you been these days? He didn't open his eyes, just waved vaguely at the TV. Ella handed him a can of soda water mixed with pet sedatives and forced a smile. I found a cabin in the mountains to hide from the storm. I have a surprise for you. Jack finished his soda in one breath, no doubt. Watching him collapse on the couch and lose consciousness, memories of past lives welled up in Ella's mind. Jack's indifference as he pushed her toward Tyler, the sharp pain of broken bones in the icy bedroom, the stifling fear of the zombie's fangs closing in on his throat. Ella grabbed the hunting knife she had hidden under her bed, and her hands trembled not from fear, but from monstrous anger. But she did not stay. She changed into her old sweater, cleaned up all traces, and threw the bloody clothes into the trash can behind the gas station. By the time Ella drove back to the mountains, the rain had flooded the sidewalks and slowly engulfed the city behind her. The radio had the news of Hurricane Laura approaching the coast, flash flood warning issued, residents advised to stay in their homes. Not a single word about the impending tsunami, the mutated marine life that will pollute the rivers, or the humans who will become monsters after drinking contaminated water. Ella turned up the volume of the country music and watched the city shrink in the rearview mirror. That apartment had been her cage, and now she was finally free. Life in the bunker was eerily quiet. Every day, Ella feeds chicks she buys from the farm, grows tomatoes and lettuce in a planting box, filters the stream water and puts it in a big plastic bucket. Sometimes she would stand in front of a one-way mirror and practice shooting, with Cole sitting quietly at her feet. The peace is broken by two women, Mia and Luna, who walk into the abandoned cottage. Mia had short black hair and a knife pinned to her thigh. Luna was carrying a battered backpack. The two were capable and neat, as if they had already become accustomed to more terrible dangers than rainstorms. When Luna reached out and conjured up a protein bar out of thin air, Ella almost dropped the cup in her hand. She had only heard the legend of the superhuman in her previous life and had never seen it with her own eyes. Mia and Luna discover expired military ready-to-eat rations that Ella hasn't had time to dispose of, and Luna puts them all in what she calls space. Ella leaned against the wall, listening to their conversation. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. That night, the loudspeaker of the bunker suddenly heard the roar of the zombies. A microphone hidden by the door could capture all the sounds outside. Through a one-way lens, Ella sees a zombie moving towards the bedroom where Mia and Luna are sleeping. Without hesitation, she grabbed the gun and pulled the trigger. The gunfire awakens Mia and Luna, who pick up the knife, scan around in confusion, and eventually escape into the fog alive. Ella didn't show up, not yet. But she knew, this end, she will not be able to survive alone. 2 months later, Mia and Luna returned this time, with a group of survivors behind them. And in the middle of the crowd, stands Taylor. The scoundrel who tortured her and threw her to the walkers when she was sick. At the moment, he smiled and helped an old woman carry the bag, pretending to be a hero. Ella clenched her gun, her knuckles white. Cole rubbed his nose against her hand, as if to soothe her anger. Tyler's true nature is hard to change. He stole food in the middle of the night and immediately fell to his knees and begged for mercy when he was found. I am so hungry I can stand guard, I will do anything. The old woman relented, and the others persuaded him to forgive her. Ella rolled her eyes. Greed was always exposed at the end of the day. At 3 in the morning, the screams woke Ella. Through the mirror, she saw a hellish scene. 3 survivors turned into zombies, eyes cloudy and white, teeth biting another person's flesh and blood. Tyler was gone and so was the last bit of food in the kitchen. All doors and windows are locked from the outside. It's a trap. Bang! The front door was knocked open. Mia and Luna are back. Mia's leg is bandaged and blood is seeping through the gauze. Tyler leaned against the second-floor railing and grinned maliciously. Mia, hurry up. I have reserved a place for you. He suddenly pushed Mia towards the oncoming zombies. But at the moment when the zombie was about to bite her, Mia's palm ignited a flame that was a fire superpower. She instantly burned the zombies to ashes. Tyler hasn't stopped. He pulls out his knife and lunges at Luna. Her spatial abilities are exhausted and she simply cannot defend herself. Taylor, do you remember me? Ella flung open the bunker door. Taylor's face turned pale for an instant and he stammered, impossible. You are obviously dead. Ella pulled the trigger. Tyler fell down the stairs and was out of breath when he landed. Luna looked at her in shock. You. Who are you? My name is Ella. This is my bunker. Outside, the roar of the zombies was getting closer. The gunfire attracted a large crowd. Ella took Mia's arm. There's no time. Come with me. In the bunker, Luna bandages Mia's wounds, and Ella hands them 2 glasses of water. You saved us twice. Luna's eyes were full of disbelief. What do you need? We'll find it for you. Ella smiled and pointed to the sprouting seedlings in the planting box. I don't need anything. But I need allies. Cole jumped into Mia's lap, and Mia gave a weak but genuine smile. Ella looked at the seedlings, the buzzing generator, and the 2 women who were doing their best to protect the stranger. In a previous life, she died alone, full of pain and fear. In this life, Ella has a bunker, Cole, and someone worth fighting. Outside, the zombies were still roaring, but inside the bunker, the lights were blazing. For the first time since the end came, Ella felt the warmth of hope. The palm trees and highway signs outside the car window are speeding backwards, blurring into a flowing color block. I rubbed my sleepy eyes and there were bursts of soreness around my neck. The broadcast of the Amtrak train is broadcasting arrival information, and a lazy female voice echoes in the carriage. Attention all passengers, the train is about to arrive at San Francisco Oakland International Airport Station. Before I had finished speaking, I was suddenly shocked. Isn't this the platform where we are getting off? Suddenly raised his head, the familiar Oakland International Airport Station stop sign on the platform came into view. My heart suddenly tightened and I hurriedly pushed Lena, who was sleeping beside me. Lena! Wake up! We missed our stop. Lena opened her eyes in a daze, and the little guy in her arms was alarmed and twisted uneasily. It was her daughter, Nora, who had just turned 1 year old, and this time we had planned to take Nora camping in Joshua Tree National Park from Los Angeles. The little guy blinked his big black eyes, looked around curiously, and gave us a toothless smile. What? Lena instantly woke up and looked out the window in a panic. This isn't the San Francisco Union Station. We should be getting off. The train began to accelerate slowly, and the platform of Auckland Airport Station gradually receded in view. I turned on my cell phone with a wry smile, and the high school friends had already exploded. You two are not sleeping, are you? Jack sent a series of laughing expressions with an emoji of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco's fog. Not the Kuei is Lena, holding Nora can sleep so deep, forgot to go to Union Station to pick up the rental car? Sophie followed the joke and sent an emoji of California sunshine. I looked at the news and shook my head helplessly. The return tickets were booked in a hurry. 5 or 6 of us were scattered in different cars. Jack and Sophie were going to Seattle, and we planned to pick up the car and drive back to Los Angeles. Now it seems that this small mistake has put us in an awkward position. I did miss my stop. I'm at Auckland Airport Station now. I typed the reply with an expression covering my face. The crowd suddenly burst into laughter, as if back to the Los Angeles high school days when they were crazy playing on the Santa Monica beach. Lena leaned over and took a look. We smiled bitterly at each other and only regarded this as an episode in the journey. However, this ease did not last long. Mia, who had been silent, suddenly sent a message in the group, like a stone thrown into a calm lake, stirring up thousands of ripples. There is a major accident in California. My brother works in CDC. If it is serious, the end is coming. The group instantly quieted down. I stared at the screen, my fingers unconsciously tightening. Mia's brother is a researcher at the Los Angeles CDC, and she never makes such boring jokes. She also sent us an evacuation warning in advance during the California wildfires last year. I don't know the specific situation, but my brother said, let everyone go home to stock up good supplies. It is best to strengthen the doors and windows, reduce contact with people. Mia continued typing, quickly. He said that San Francisco and Los Angeles had already had cases. Years of trust have kept us from asking. Lena and I looked at each other and saw the same shock and anxiety in each other's eyes. Mia, what's the time? It will take us at least 2 hours to transfer back to Union Station and pick up the bus. I replied quickly. I don't know, but the sooner the better. My brother said, the shortest possible time today. So soon? My heart thumped and I thought quickly. The train was still accelerating, carrying us away from our destination and heading for an unknown danger. The traffic outside Oakland Airport seemed a bit weird at the moment. Chapter 2, The Choice of Life and Death. I forced myself to calm down, my brain racing, and quickly drew up 3 plans. Listen, I whispered to Lena, we have 3 choices. Lena hugged Nora tightly and nodded pale, her fingers unconsciously clutching Nora's California Bear jumpsuit. First, get off at the next stop, Berkeley Station, as originally planned, buy a return ticket to Union Station immediately, and go to the nearby Trader Joe's, Wicked Uncle, a common supermarket chain in California, to purchase materials while waiting for the bus. The car we rented is still at the rental point at Union Station, pick it up and drive back to Los Angeles. The disadvantage of this plan is that it takes too long. Berkeley Station and Union Station are both crowded areas. Without knowing how the doomsday broke out, the risk factor is too high. Have you forgotten that the people in the station were crowded during the San Francisco flu last year? Lena squeezed her lips and shook her head gently. Second, after arriving at Berkeley Station, rent a car directly from Hertz Car Rental, a large American car rental company, go to the nearby Costco warehouse supermarket, to purchase good supplies, and drive directly back to Los Angeles. This can avoid contact with a large number of people, and the home environment is familiar. The downside is that it takes 6 hours to drive Route 10 from the Bay Area to Los Angeles, and if the doomsday outbreak affects road conditions, such as wildfires or traffic accidents, we will be stuck on the road. Thirdly, I took a deep breath. After arriving at Berkeley Station, I directly found a high-rise hotel with better security, such as Hyatt Regency, Hyatt Hotel, in downtown Berkeley, and purchased supplies to take refuge in the hotel. The advantage is that the time is short, can quickly avoid. The disadvantage is that the hotel is not familiar with the home, there are no cooking tools, the door lock is not necessarily safe, and California hotels often have homeless people wandering. Lena was silent for a moment and said softly, "Choose option 2. Nora is still young, it is not convenient to be outside, and there is an emergency kit prepared by my parents at home, which was prepared during the wildfire last year and should still be usable." I was about to nod when I suddenly noticed something strange about Lena's expression. She held her daughter in one hand and patted her back gently with the other. I clearly remember that Nora's face was facing me just now. She was still babbling at the map of California in my hand. I don't know when, Lena has turned her in a direction and pointed her head at me. The heart rises, a strange feeling that cannot be said. After years of tacit understanding, we volunteered together in Los Angeles in high school. I stopped talking and showed her the plan on my cell phone memo, typing the last line, "What's wrong?" Lena looked down at her daughter in her arms and nodded to me again, her eyes full of alarm and fear, the same eyes we had when we encountered shark warnings on Santa Barbara Beach last year. Suddenly, for some reason, I felt something strange about the baby in her arms. From Lena's performance, she must have found something. After all, mother and child are the closest, and the slightest difference can arouse a mother's suspicion, especially in places like California, where maternal and child safety is often popular. I'm a little creepy. Just now, we got the news that the end was coming. Hoarding supplies, going back to the building to take refuge, all this subconsciously points to the zombies. After all, this is what happens in Hollywood doomsday movies. Coupled with the recent frequent news coverage of the San Francisco biolab leak, supposedly working on a new virus, we all seem to be acquiescing to the idea that doomsday equals zombies. But now it seems that the situation may be worse than we thought. If it wasn't a zombie, what would it be? What's wrong with Lena's daughter? She motioned me not to speak, and turned the child's face to the side where we could not see our expression communication, indicating that she had been aware of her daughter's problem, and that she was very likely to understand our communication and even our expressions. This is by no means the ability of a 1-year-old baby. California's parenting handbook clearly states that 1-year-old babies can only say simple reduplications at most. Wait, there is another one in Mia's message: avoid contact with others. If it is a zombie outbreak, then there is no need to explain that everyone knows that the physical features of zombies are too easy to distinguish. Special emphasis needs to be placed on avoiding contact, unless the danger is hidden in a person who cannot be distinguished from the outside, for example, a normal-looking baby. Ding dong, the train arrives at Berkeley Station. In front of the train, please get ready for the passengers who get off. Before I could figure it out, the train had arrived. We can only take one step at a time. The sun outside Berkeley Station is a bit dazzling, but the usually lively University District is unusually quiet today. Chapter 3, Car Rentals. I pulled Lena out of the car with pretending composure, pretending to be calm. God knows how panicked I was. On the bus stop outside Berkeley, there was only a homeless man eating a sandwich, and the benches that were usually crowded with students were empty. We'll go to Hertz Car Rental Agency first, on Shattuck Avenue opposite the station, and then go to Costco to purchase supplies and drive back to Los Angeles. I said to Lena, actually to the baby in her arms, it's the safest way to think about it, it's much better than waiting for the bus at the station. When I arrived at the car rental agency, I directly asked for the fastest-running Chevrolet Suburban, a common large SUV in the United States, suitable for long-distance self-driving, but there are two conditions. One is that the child's safety seat can be put down, and the other is that the space in the car is spacious. It can also hold some supplies. California families usually choose this kind of car for self-driving, and the space is enough for camping equipment. After driving in the car, I said to Lena, let's go to Costco to do some shopping first, mainly because we still need safety seats, otherwise we can't hold Nora for 6 hours from Berkeley to Los Angeles. You can buy as many things as you can in Costco. The important thing is to get home as soon as possible. I paused and added, one more important thing is to inform the family that there may be danger coming, so that they can stock up on water and cans and reinforce the doors and windows just like last year during the wildfires. This is also said to her. Of course, it's important not to forget to inform the family. Lena's parents live in Pasadena, a suburb of Los Angeles, which is relatively safe. When we arrived at the nearest Costco, Solano Avenue branch in Berkeley, we went straight to the children's products area. When we paid the bill, I deliberately said loudly, "The safety seat is enough for one person to hold, and Lena needs to hold Nora all the time. We can't spare time to choose materials. Why don't we put Nora in the car first?" I looked at Lena embarrassedly. Lena immediately understood. She lowered her head and coaxed the baby softly. "Nora is good. Can Nora wait for us in the car? Mom and Aunt Amy will come as soon as they buy delicious food. Shall we go back to Pasadena's house together?" After installing the safety seat, Lena fixed the baby on the seat and touched her head lovingly. Nora also had a California poppy-shaped hairpin pinned to her hair, a souvenir we bought yesterday at Joshua Tree National Park. "Now is a special case, Nora will darling. Mom will be back in a minute." Yes, Nora will wait for Mom and Aunt Amy to come back. The little baby blinked his big eyes and said to us in a clear and fluent voice, "Mom and Auntie must come back. Oh, Nora wants to go home to Pasadena." Lena finally waved and closed the door. As soon as I turned around, cold sweat had soaked my back. Although the afternoon sun in California was warm, I felt cold all over. Lena didn't feel any better either. If I hadn't held her hand, she would have fallen next to Costco's shopping cart. If it was still speculation before, the moment she spoke just now, we all knew it was no longer Lena's little daughter. 1-year-old Nora can't speak at all. At most, she can only utter the vague syllables of Mom and Dad, while the little baby just now speaks like an adult who can communicate proficiently and can even say, "Pasadena." This place name is by no means a coincidence. Chapter 4, Escape from the Supermarket. I took Lena in from the front of the Costco and turned a corner to go out the back door. The back door leads directly to the employee aisle of the parking lot, and few people usually walk. There is already a Ford F-150, Ford Raptor, a common off-road vehicle in the United States, waiting for us. When renting a car at Hertz, I added my boss's WeChat in advance, booked another car from him, and asked him to fill up the gas and drive to the back door of Costco. This time, I asked my boss directly for the best off-road vehicle with bulletproof windows. California security is not bad, but there are occasional highway robberies. The boss said that this kind of vehicle can be driven in deserts and mountains and is suitable for emergency situations. On this basis, we chose the largest inner space, convenient to hoard materials. Driving on the road, Lena was clearly out of her mind. Anyway, she just lost her daughter. Although we all know that it is no longer Nora, but it is Nora's body after all, wearing the bear jumpsuit we just bought yesterday. In fact, my mental state is not very good. From the beginning, I assumed that the coming of the end of the world was a zombie. As long as I quickly returned to Los Angeles to stock up on supplies, everything would be fine. Obviously the situation is more difficult now. Hollywood doomsday movies have never played a baby parasitized plot. The greatest fear is the unknown. Now, we do not know the specific form of the coming of the end, or that it is completely beyond our knowledge. A 1-year-old baby suddenly becomes another person, another thing. It all sounds like a horror story, and it's not scientific at all. The professor in the biology class at the University of California, Berkeley, did not talk about this consciousness transfer phenomenon. But now is not the time for science. I drove the SUV all the way, and set a passing point on the navigation. Oakland's large wholesale food market, Oakland Wholesale Food Market, the largest wholesale food market in Northern California, ready to pass there to quickly purchase good supplies, and then drive all the way back to Los Angeles along Highway 10. Bearing in mind Mia's less human contact tip, I always feel that this is a key to doomsday survival, especially in densely populated places like California, where viruses or unknown dangers spread faster. At the wholesale food market, I went straight to the fast food area and bought 5 boxes of instant noodles and 5 boxes of mineral water. California's bottled water is mostly mineral water from Nevada. Then I took 3 boxes of compressed biscuits, a box of canned luncheon meat, a box of canned yellow peaches, and a box of ham sausage, all of which are convenient to store and high in calories and are suitable for long-distance escape. Suddenly, the off-road vehicle I drove could only choose the most urgent and life-saving materials. If we really can't go back to Los Angeles and have to drive off-road vehicles, such as to Death Valley in Eastern California, where there are few people, these supplies will save our lives at a critical moment. As for the large amount of vegetables, meat, toilet paper, sanitary napkins, and other daily necessities, and even the generator, I have already notified Lena's parents to prepare. They live in a single house in Pasadena and have a garage to store these things. And during the wildfires last year, they stocked up a lot of emergency supplies. I asked the market owner to load the goods. I was very cautious in the whole process and did not have physical contact with anyone when the boss handed me the receipt. I took it with a tissue pad. After all, it's better to be cautious before you can figure out how that thing spreads. The CDC in California always reminds everyone to avoid direct contact with items that may carry the virus. Chapter 5, High Speed Scary. Seeing the long line of cars at the toll booth on Highway 10 from a distance, I felt that things were not very good. I parked the car 30 meters away from the team, watched the movement ahead, the engine did not go out, and was ready to run at any time. California highway toll booths are rarely stuck in traffic unless there is an accident. At this time, it has been 2 hours since we received the news of the end. There was a commotion ahead. The distance was too far to see what was going on. Lena turned on the camera of the mobile phone and pulled the lens double speed to the maximum. Her mobile phone is the latest iPhone, and the camera pixels are clear enough. In the camera, a man in a University of California, Berkeley sweater is standing next to the car, beating the windows of the surrounding vehicles frantically, trying to get them to open the door, saying something in his mouth. From the mouth, it seems to be saying, "Help me." The surrounding windows are closed tightly, and the vehicles that originally opened the windows for ventilation have also closed the windows. Although California drivers are usually enthusiastic, they are very vigilant in this abnormal situation. The man glared, gradually turning from madness to convulsions. A more eerie scene occurred. His face distorted, his skin began to bruise, and then shrank at a rate visible to the naked eye. In less than a minute, he went from a living person to a mummy lying on the ground, never moving again. Lena and I looked at each other and saw shock and fear in each other's eyes, a scene that was more terrifying than the plot in the Hollywood horror movie Dawn of the Living Dead. Highway 10 is even impassable, and other sections are estimated to be in the same situation. The more people there are, the more dangerous it is. There are millions of cars on California's highways every day, and if something goes wrong, it will be massive chaos. Thinking for a moment, I asked Lena to open Yelp, American version of public comment, and search for nearby resort hotels. It is better to be in the suburbs. The fewer people and the higher the hotel star, the better. For example, the Winery Hotel in Napa Valley or the Coast Hotel in Monterey. However, Napa Valley is too far away and Monterey is opposite to Los Angeles. It is better to look for one near Berkeley. Soon, we locked in on a hot spring resort hotel 10 kilometers away, the Canyon Ranch Hotel in Berkeley Hills, Berkeley Hills. It is in the middle of Mount Tamalpais National Park, near the mountain and near the water, and because the hotel takes a high-end vacation style, it will limit the daily reception, up to 50 people, to ensure the quality of service, which is very much in line with our needs to stay away from the crowd. Most of the high-end resort hotels in California, especially in the mountains. Okay, here's a full story based on the beginning you provided. Storm Queen. Chapter 1, Feast of Betrayal. In the Greenwich mansion, the candlelight flickered, but it did not illuminate the haze in Eleanor Vance's heart. Her carefully cooked dinner, Michael's favorite filet mignon, was now as cold as their marriage. For 3 years, it has long been the norm for dinner to become a one-man show. Over the past year, Michael's return has become more erratic and his phone conversations more secretive. The familiar smell of cedar in him was replaced by a strange, sweet perfume. The sound of the door lock turning woke her up, her legs numb from sitting for a long time. Michael Hayes walked in, his tall body seemingly bringing in the chill from outside. His custom-made suit was rarely wrinkled, and the air was filled with a sweet fragrance of flowers she didn't recognize. "You're back," she said softly, trying to hide the exhaustion in her voice. "Have you eaten? Let me heat up dinner for you." Michael loosened his tie and casually tossed his briefcase on a chair. He didn't look at her, and his tone was short. "No, I'll just eat something here." He sat at the table like a king on the throne, and Eleanor, like a dutiful servant, silently set the plate for him. She sat across from him and watched him feed. He cut off a steak, chewed it a few times and frowned slightly, a little old. He spoke casually as if he were talking about the weather. "I had a steak at a friend's house last week. She cooked much better. The steak was tender and just right. You should learn from her." Eleanor's hand holding the fork froze in midair, an invisible weight that made her chest so stuffy that she could hardly breathe. He had sworn that her cooking was the best in the world. She lowered her head and hit her trembling lips. "Okay, I'll pay attention next time." The stifling silence fell again, more terrible than any quarrel. The silence was like a dull knife, cutting her heart slowly and painfully. Just then, the mobile phone on the table lit up and a new message came in. She saw a gentle smile on Michael's face that she hadn't seen in a long time. He picked up his phone, walked out onto the covered terrace and closed the glass door that separated their world. Although she couldn't hear the specific words, she could feel everything in his gentle tone of voice. Well, I'm home. Have you eaten yet? Tired, not tired? Don't think much, go to bed early. See you tomorrow. Every vague word was enough to destroy the last glimmer of hope in her heart. Eleanor sat alone at the cold table, looking at her husband's back, all his tenderness poured out on the other. This spacious mansion, suddenly empty and icy. Tears slipped uncontrollably into the unmoved dish before her. Chapter 2, The Humiliation of the Office. The next morning, Eleanor was awakened by the rapid ringing of her cell phone. It was Michael, and on the other end of the phone he sounded impatient and full of orders. The contract for the Sterling project is on the desk in my study. I have a meeting at 10 o'clock, you will send it to the company immediately, hurry up. Without waiting for her to respond, he hung up. His indifference had become an instinct. Eleanor looked at herself in the mirror, her eyes puffy from a night of crying. She changed absently into a beige dress, found the contract, and hurried out the door. Hayes Industries occupies the top floor of a skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan. It is a symbol of wealth and power, and the employees are well-dressed and confident. In a simple dress, Eleanor felt like an outsider, even though she was the CEO's wife. In 3 years, she's been here a handful of times. The receptionist looked at her with curious and critical eyes, even though they were very professional. Mrs. Hayes, please go up to the top floor. Mr. Harris is waiting for you. Eleanor nodded her thanks and stepped into the exclusive executive elevator. When the elevator doors opened on the 35th floor, the first thing that came into view was not Michael, but a beautiful young woman. She was standing at Michael's desk in a well-fitted business suit and curvy, carefully inserting a bouquet of fragrant lilies into a vase. The move seemed ordinary, but there was a disturbing sense of intimacy. Seeing Eleanor, the young woman came up smiling. You must be Mrs. Hayes. I'm Jessica Miller, Mr. Harris's assistant. He often mentions you. Her words were like tiny needles in Eleanor's heart. Michael will mention her? He hardly said a normal word to her, how could he have time to mention her in front of others? Hello, I'm here to deliver the documents. Eleanor replied politely, trying to suppress her emotions. Jessica raised her hand to put a strand of loose curls back to her ear, a deliberate gesture that revealed a sparkling platinum bracelet on her wrist. Oh, it's a trouble to wear, she pursed her lips coyly. Mr. Harris insists it suits me, but I always don't think it looks good. Eleanor's heart tightened. She recognized the bracelet. That is the latest series of the world-famous jewelry brand. Last month, on their wedding anniversary, she admired a necklace from the same collection, but Michael dismissed it as too extravagant and flashy. And now, the more expensive bracelet is on his assistant's hand. Noticing Eleanor's white face, Jessica was secretly pleased, but said enthusiastically, please sit down, Mr. Harris is in a meeting and it should be almost over. Let me get you a cup of coffee. Before Eleanor could refuse, she had already walked quickly into the small lounge beside her. A moment later, she came out with a cup of steaming coffee. Her wrist seemed to shake as she handed the coffee to Eleanor, and the whole cup of piping hot coffee was splashed on Eleanor's hand and on the beige dress. Ah! Eleanor gave a soft cry of pain, and the back of her hand immediately turned red. Oh, my God! I'm sorry, Mrs. Hayes. I'm so clumsy. Jessica repeatedly apologized, but there was a flash of pride in her eyes. Just then, the door of the conference room opened. Michael walked out with a few business partners, and his eyes immediately fell on the scene, his wife's frowning in pain, coffee stains on her dress, his assistant's face was panicked. He dropped his face in an instant and shouted at Eleanor without asking why, what are you doing? Jessica just wants to be nice to you. You don't want to drink. Just say it. Why do you want to do this to her? His voice was full of anger and disappointment, as if she had committed a heinous crime. He rushed to Jessica's side and asked her with concern, completely ignoring his wife's scalded hands. Are you all right? Is it hot? The sense of humiliation swept over Eleanor and left her speechless. Any excuse stuck in the throat. In front of Michael's partners and employees, he stripped her of all dignity. He turned to look at her, his eyes cold as frost, his voice low and contemptuous. Look at yourself. Dressed like this to my company, but also make trouble. Go home and don't embarrass me again. With that, he gently soothed the pitiful-looking Jessica who leaned against him, and then continued to accompany the guests as if Eleanor didn't exist. Eleanor stood alone in the empty cold corridor, the burning pain in her hands still there, but nowhere near the sharp pain in her heart. She silently put the contract on the reception desk and turned away, her back straight and lonely. She didn't cry, the tears of last night had run dry. Chapter 3, Diagnosis. The humiliation of the office burned in Eleanor's heart all day. She returned to her cold, empty home and sat in the dark, letting her pain consume her. I don't know how long, she finally moved. It was very late, Michael still didn't come home. He probably won't be back tonight. She staggered to her feet and stepped into their walk-in closet. Michael's blazer still smelled of Jessica's perfume. A rush of nausea came over her, and she wanted to throw it in the trash and burn it to ashes. But in the end, she just numbly took it to the laundry room. As she examined her pocket, her fingertips touched a piece of paper, neatly folded into a small square. Eleanor's heart jumped, and a sense of foreboding struck her. She opened it with trembling hands. It was a prenatal ultrasound report from a well-known maternity hospital in Manhattan. The clear black print on it, like 1,000 knives into her eye. Patient name, Jessica Miller. Age, 24 years old. Diagnosis, single intrauterine pregnancy. Gestational weeks, 32 weeks. 32 weeks. 8 months. The thin piece of paper, suddenly heavy, slipped from her hand and fluttered down on the cold tiles. She collapsed to the ground, powerless. 8 months. This means that while he was still sweet-talking to her, while they were still sharing intimate nights, he had already had a child with another woman. This deception is too cruel, too disgusting. Her vision was blurred. After 3 years of marriage, she gave up her identity as a daughter of a famous family and a promising career just to become his wife. She learned to cook, learned to arrange flowers, and strived to be the perfect wife in his eyes. This is her reward? I don't know how long she sat on the cold floor until the bedroom door was pushed open. Michael walked in, smelling of alcohol. He saw her sitting on the ground next to the ultrasound report and froze. But there was no guilt or panic on his face, only boredom and indifference. Did you go through my things? He questioned, his voice low. Eleanor looked up, her bloodshot eyes staring at him. She picked up the report, her voice shaking, but every word was unusually clear. Michael, what is this? Michael glanced at the report and looked at her again, his expression so unashamed that he didn't even bother to deny it. Just what you saw. Jessica is pregnant and is my child. Why? Eleanor felt a fit of nausea. Why are you doing this to me? Why? Michael sneered, went to the bed and sat down, looking at her condescending. Eleanor, take a good look at yourself. We've been married for 3 years, and your stomach hasn't moved at all. I need a son to carry on my family name and the business empire I have worked so hard to build. Can you give it to me? His every word like a knife, into her heart, blood dripping. So, in his eyes, she is just a birth machine. When she was unable to perform her duty, he went to find a substitute with peace of mind. So you found someone else to give you a baby? She murmured, tears sliding down her cheeks. Our love, your vows. Are they all lies? Love? He hissed, can love be a meal? Can you get me $1 million worth of business? Eleanor, don't be so naive. A woman like Jessica can help me in my career, not a housewife who only stays in the kitchen. This is the truth, naked and cruel. She couldn't believe that the man in front of her was the one she had loved with all her heart. Seeing her silent tears, he lost all patience. He stood up and looked at her condescending, his voice becoming as cold as ice. You have 2 choices. 1. You accept yourself as Mrs. Hayes and the existence of Jessica and my son. After the child is born, you raise it, and he still calls you his mother. 2. He paused, leaned over, and leaned close to her ear. We divorce, you will have nothing. Remember, this house, your car and everything are registered in my name. His words, like a death sentence, did not give her any retreat, only between humiliation and extreme poverty. Eleanor looked at him through her tears, and the familiar face looked hideous and strange at the moment. At that moment, her heart was completely numb. Chapter 4, Choices in the Storm. For the next few days, the atmosphere inside the Greenwich mansion was stifling. Eleanor and Michael live under the same roof like 2 strangers. He left early and returned late, completely ignoring her presence. Her heart was as cold as a stone and she had nothing to say to him. The divorce agreement has been drafted, just waiting for the right time. That morning, Eleanor was watering her orchids on the balcony when Michael came out of the study, already dressed in a straight suit. Get ready. We'll drive to Hampton in the afternoon. This is an order, not a discussion. Eleanor turned her head, her eyes calm. To the Hamptons? What are you doing? Grandma's 80th birthday, have you forgotten? He frowned, displeased that she had forgotten it. How could she forget? His grandmother is the only person in the family who is kind to her. But she was no longer in the mood to play the virtuous granddaughter-in-law. I won't go, you can go by yourself. She answered firmly. Her resistance clearly angered him. He strode over, his big hand clutching her wrist. Eleanor, don't challenge my patience. Do you think you have the right to say no? I tell you, as long as you are still Mrs. Hayes, you have an obligation to maintain my image, the image of this family. Everyone in my hometown knows that I have a perfect wife. Do you want me to lose face in front of my relatives? The image? Eleanor laughed, her laughter bitter and broken. Michael Hayes, you still care about image? When you slept with another woman and made her pregnant, did you consider my dignity? Shut up. He growled, the strength of his hand increased, making her wrist ache. That's my business, it's not up to you to judge. You must go this afternoon, don't force me to use strong ones. He released his hand, leaving a harsh red mark on her wrist. He tidied up his tie, turned to leave, and dropped the last cold order, depart at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, get ready, and dress decently. Eleanor looked at his back, her heart filled with deep hatred. He doesn't need her love, he just needs her as a beautiful ornament, a perfect facade, to cover up his decadent and hypocritical life. In the afternoon, a sleek black Mercedes drove out of the manor gate. The air in the car is colder than the air conditioner. Eleanor looked out of the window, the landscape of Connecticut blurring before her eyes like a silent movie. Michael concentrated on driving, expressionless on his face. The two did not say a word. Silent and heavy, a news bulletin on the radio interrupted the soft melody. The announcer's voice became serious. Breaking news. The National Weather Service issued a hurricane warning. Hurricane Esila is rapidly strengthening and is expected to make landfall on the east coast, including Long Island, tonight. Sustained winds near the center of the storm could reach 140 miles per hour with a strength of Category 4. A red alert has been issued, advising all residents to stay indoors and all vehicles on the highway to seek safe shelter immediately. Eleanor turned to Michael, with anxiety in her voice. Did you hear that? A super hurricane is coming, let's go home and call Grandma. Michael gave her a dismissive look. It's just a storm. What's the big deal? Are you afraid of dying? The news always exaggerates. I promised Grandma that I wouldn't break my word. But this is a hurricane. It is very dangerous. We are heading for the center of the storm. I said, it's okay, it's okay. He was impatient and exhausted. You sit quietly and don't disturb my driving. Eleanor knew that she could not change his mind, and that stubbornness and selfishness had been carved into his bones. She could only hold the seatbelt tighter, an inexplicable fear hovering in her heart. This journey was a mistake from the beginning. Cars sped down Interstate 95, a traffic artery that connects major cities on the East Coast. The sky had darkened, and the wind grew stronger, with a damp and dangerous chill. Chapter 5, The Deadly U-Turn. The sky turned a sickly leaden gray, as if it were about to collapse. Huge dark clouds rolled overhead, heralding nature's impending fury. The wind began to howl, and the heavy gusts of wind made the heavy luxury car start to tremble. Then the first drop of rain fell, at first a gentle slap, but soon it turned into a downpour. The rain slammed on the windshield, the wipers were at their maximum and it was difficult to see the road ahead, and the visibility dropped to a few feet, only a fuzzy and terrible gray. Eleanor clung to her handbag, her body tight. She could sense that danger was approaching. With every violent gust, she felt that the car might be overturned on the road. Michael, this is too dangerous. Please find an exit and a rest stop. Everything is fine. We have to wait. Her voice fainted with fear. It's suicide to drive in this weather. Michael's face was like a stone, full of defiance. He gripped the steering wheel, squinting his eyes to see the road ahead. The exit is just ahead, we're almost there. Don't make a fuss. He roared, his voice full of irritation. He hated the storm and hated her fear even more. Just then, the phone rang, sharp and rapid. One name appeared on the screen, Jessica. In an instant, the irritability and stubbornness on Michael's face disappeared, replaced by anxiety that could not be concealed. He quickly connected and pressed hands-free to facilitate driving. On the other end of the phone came Jessica's panicked sobs, accompanied by rapid gasps of breath. Michael. Where are you? Help me, my stomach hurts. Michael's heart pulled up. Where are you? What's going on? Calm down, tell me. I fell in the bathroom and now my stomach hurts badly. I think my water broke. Jessica's cry of pain came from the phone. Michael, I'm so scared, our baby. Will our baby be okay? Please, come back and get me. I think I'm going to give birth. It's going to be born. The word struck Michael like a bolt of lightning. His face went white. His son, his long-awaited son, was about to be born. At that moment, nothing else existed. Grandmother's birthday party, a Category 4 hurricane, highway dangers. It was all erased from his mind. All he saw was Jessica in pain and his unborn son. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Stay where you are. I'll be right back to pick you up. I'll be right back. He yelled into the phone, his voice full of madness. Without a moment's hesitation, without a trace of consideration, Michael Hayes did something crazy. He jerked the steering wheel to the left. The black Mercedes shook violently, and then came a sharp U-turn in the middle of the highway. Eleanor didn't even have time to scream, and the whole person was thrown towards the door by huge centrifugal force. The seatbelt strangled her, but she felt a whirl. The car made a screeching tire friction, drew a dangerous arc on the empty highway, and then sped away in the direction it came. Michael! Are you crazy? It's too dangerous to turn like this on the highway. Exclaimed Eleanor in horror, her heart beating wildly. But Michael couldn't listen. Gone. His eyes were only forward, and he stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. The car roared like an out-of-control beast in the storm. Shut up. Don't get in my way. He shouted at Eleanor, his eyes bloodshot. You don't understand. That's my son. He is my heir. Then what am I? Your driver. Eleanor was burning with anger, humiliation, and anger made her lose her mind. You just threw me in the car for your little 3 and the wild seed? What are you? Michael grinned, tearing his face completely. You're just my window dressing. Now the tool is useless, of course, to throw away. If it weren't for Grandma's birthday, do you think I would take you out? Every word, like a knife, went into Eleanor's heart. She looked at the crazy man in front of her, her heart completely dead. The car ran for nearly half an hour in the wind and rain and finally stopped at an intersection. Get off! Michael ordered rudely. What? Eleanor couldn't believe her ears. I told you to get off. Michael pointed out the window. Go, get that red first aid kit in the trunk. Jessica needs it. It's a storm outside, visibility is almost zero, and this is the wilderness. Get her off? Michael, you're crazy. It's dangerous out there. I count 3, Michael's face twisted and ferocious. 1. Eleanor knew that he could do anything now. She opened the car door trembling, and the wind mixed with the rain poured in instantly. She rushed into the wind and rain, staggered to the back of the car, opened the trunk and got the red first aid kit. Just as she closed the trunk and turned to run back to the car, Michael made a move she would never forget. Instead of waiting for her to get in the car, he slammed on the accelerator. The black Mercedes rushed out like an arrow from the string and disappeared in an instant into the stormy night. Eleanor stood still holding the first aid kit. The cold rain instantly drenched her whole body, from head to toe. She looked at the empty road and her heart was colder than the rain. He dropped her. For the sake of his lover and unborn child, he does not hesitate to abandon her on this deadly hurricane night. She became a true outcast, on this night of God's abandonment. Chapter 6, The Flame of Vengeance. 30 minutes later, Michael returned. When he drove the black Mercedes and reappeared on this storm-ravaged highway, the sight before him made him unforgettable. In the middle of the road, the woman he thought had been swallowed up by the wind and rain was standing quietly. Eleanor Vance did not run or hide. She stood just like that in the storm, her beige dress soaked with rain, clinging to her body, her long hair messy on her face. There were no tears or fear on her face, only a cold, resolute peace. At her feet lay a man. It's Jessica Miller. She was covered in blood, disheveled, and had clearly lost consciousness, or had died. Her belly was high and bulging, but beneath her was a dazzling pool of blood. Michael slams on the brakes and rushes out of the car, shouting wildly, Jessica! Oh, my God! Jessica! He threw himself at Jessica, shaking his hand and probing for her breath. Still gas, but very weak. His son. His son is still inside. He raised his head and looked at Eleanor with a look that mixed with madness, bitterness, and hatred. What have you done to her? You lunatic. What did you do to her? Eleanor raised her head slowly, the rain dripping down her chin. She looked at Michael.